Hello everyone and welcome to another No BS travel guide, and today we're going to be taking a look at the tiny but beautiful and luxurious country of Luxembourg. So I went to Luxembourg last summer and let me just say I fell in love with it. It's kind of hard not to. It's so nice, so pretty, so beautiful. But a lot of people, when they go to Luxembourg, just go to the city, Luxembourg City, and don't really venture out. And they're really missing out. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about everything that you need to see, not just in the capital city, but across the whole country, and a very special day trip that you should absolutely include if you go to Luxembourg. I suppose the best place to start is with the capital city, which, to be honest, doesn't have all that much going on. I would say that the most important attractions to see basically come down to the cathedral, the Boc Cassement, or however you pronounce it. I'm not French and I'm not going to learn to pronounce it correctly, sorry. And the Grand Ducal Palace. These are like the three things to see. A lot of people will include a bunch of random churches. I've been in a lot of them. They were okay, but not a must-see. They'll also include the Chemin de la Corniche, which is beautiful. But if you go to the Bac Cosmos and then you walk from there back to the Grand Ducal Palace, which is what I did, then you'll walk along it anyway. So it's not really its own attraction. It's sort of a route that's really pretty. There's also the main square. A lot of people would describe that as a must-see. But if you're going to the Grand Ducal Palace, you're pretty much going to walk right through it anyway. So I think you can summarize it to those three things. Now, the cathedral is a pretty beautiful cathedral. I would say it's worth going to, especially if you're right by it, because really Luxembourg is such a small city that you can get to all of this stuff super easily on foot. And even if you're staying a bit out of the city center, which I did, public transport is super good and free, completely free. So you have no excuse. And then from that, we move on to the Boc Cosmos, which might be the most recognizable attraction of Luxembourg City. Is it mind-blowing? Not necessarily, especially because on the trip where I went to Luxembourg, I had also been to multiple cave systems in the Netherlands. But it is really cool. It's cool in a literal sense as well, like it's actually nice and kind of a very mild temperature down there. So if you're visiting during the summer and it gets a bit hot like it did for me, that's a good option. I don't think it was that expensive to visit. Maybe it's a bit overpriced, but it's a cool experience and you will get just the best views. I mean, look at this stuff. I think that makes it worth it alone. And finally, we have the Grand Ducal Palace. Now, this is a bit tricky because it's really hard to get into this. They only have tours during a very specific time during the summer, I believe. I just so happened to be able to get in with the last ticket that was available. There were no tickets available for an English tour, so I had to go for a German tour, which was actually cool. But the problem is you're not allowed to take any photos inside, which I can kind of understand, but it's really sad because I'd love to show you how cool it is and try and convince you to go on a tour if you can get the tickets and you're visiting at the right time of year, but I can't. So you're just going to have to take my word for it that this is a really beautiful royal palace, a really nice, tight, 1 hour long tour, not boring. I highly recommend it if you have the means and the interest. There are, of course, other things to do in Luxembourg City, but I don't think any of them are that appealing to me personally. If you want a list so you can note these down and see if these are right for you, then I have them right here for you. But if you want to know my recommendations, it's those three things: the cathedral, the Boc Cosmos, and, of course, the Royal Palace, again, if you can get in. But as I said, most of the best stuff to see in Luxembourg is outside of the city. So you're going to want to get a car and then drive up to see a few amazing castles. Now, the first one that I saw was, and I'm really sorry if I get this wrong, I think Borscheid. See, there's Borscheid Castle and Beaufort Castle. They're both ruined castles, both beautiful. I went to both of them, but they have such similar names and they look kind of similar to the point that I can't really distinguished. So I'm pretty sure, I'll correct it in editing if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the first one I went to is Borscheid Castle, which is located high up on these hills. The drive is incredibly beautiful and scenic, and you just feel like you're in another world up there. Yes, it is castle ruins, so it's not the most exciting thing. If you're looking for like an actual castle you can go inside of and explore, but the ruins are beautiful and you get some of the most amazing views I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've been to other countries, I've been to other cities that are far more touristy. I've been to Berlin, London, Paris, Venice, and I would maybe honestly say that the views I got from these Luxembourgish castles are still some of the best I've ever gotten. So they're really underrated hidden gems. So you're going to want to check that one out if the weather is good, because it's a ruin. So if the weather is bad, then maybe skip. Then there's Vianden Castle, which is probably the crown jewel of Luxembourg, in my opinion. You have to see this place. It's absolutely amazing. And if you just the village around it and the whole setting is incredible. But if you want a castle that you can actually explore, this is your best bet. There's plenty to explore. It's really fun, really cool, and even just getting shots of it from the distance, it looks absolutely spectacular. So check those ones out. And then the third castle is Beaufort, the other B1. I'm pretty sure it's Beaufort. I saw this one a bit later. I didn't think I was going to check it out, but I decided to, and I'm glad I did. It's also ruins, but it feels more adventurous than Borscheid, if you know what I mean. Borscheid, it's sort of just a flat plateau with some of the ruins left over and the towers and stuff, and it's very pretty, but Beaufort is like you actually kind of get to go through the ruined castle. So it's sort of like in between the two, right? So you got Borscheid, which is basically just ruins and the view. You got Beaufort, which sort of gives you that element of exploration. There are some indoor parts of it. And then you have Vianden, which really gives you a full castle exploration experience. All three are 100% worth your time, in my opinion. Some of my favorite attractions I've ever visited. I guess I'm a castle guy. But yeah, I would highly recommend all three of those. And then there are also two other places you can drive to. There's Clervaux in the way up north. I think it's like the northernmost town in Luxembourg. It's very, very beautiful, very picturesque. They have a little castle which houses a museum about the Battle of the Bulge. And I would love to tell you about it, but I arrived literally 1 minute too late to enter. The last entry time was 4:30 p.m. and I arrived at 4:31. I'm not making that up, and it was so frustrating because I went all the way up there and I couldn't see it. They do have a beautiful church there. The inside is pretty cool, but wow, the outside is absolutely stunning. So if you're in Clervaux for that museum, check it out. And on the hilltop, they also have an abbey, which I didn't get to visit, but it's pretty massive, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. So if you want to go up to see Clervaux, those would be the three things to see there. And finally, there's the town of Echternach, which connects us to the last point I'm going to make, which is the ultimate day trip from Luxembourg. So I drove to Echternach on the way to this day trip, and they're famous basically just for their abbey. Which is pretty from the outside, but again, they were holding a service, so I didn't want to go inside and interrupt everything to take stupid pictures. And from what I could see from the windows, the inside is not that spectacular. So I kind of felt scammed by this because it really doesn't have much to offer other than just that abbey. But it is a pretty town, so if you really care, you can check it out, but it's not necessary. However, what I went to after Echternach really was worth it, and that is Trier in Germany. Now, Trier is one of the most underrated hidden gems in all of Germany. I can't necessarily tell you that this is like the be-all, end-all, but it is really, really worth your while if you're in Luxembourg. If you're going to Germany, I'm not going to tell you derail everything, discount Munich, discount Berlin, discount, Hamburg, and go here instead. No. But if you're in Luxembourg, you would be kind of missing out not to hop over the border and check out Trier. And why? Well, I'll give you the quick rundown because it's just a day trip, so you're not going to have that much time, and there's really not so much to do that you're going to need all these details, but there's quite a bit for a whole day. First, you have Porta Nigra, which is the old Roman gate from I think like the 4th century, and it's still standing, which is just incredible. And yeah, you can go inside of it, climb up in it, and get good views of the city. It's fantastic. You have to check that out. There's also the Trier Cathedral, which is extremely underrated. Nearly every single little chapel in this cathedral is outstanding, and I really, really like the Romanesque architecture. I like Gothic architecture too, but this is kind of an underrated style, I think, and Trier is the best Romanesque church I think I've ever seen, and so I really, really recommend checking it out. There are also a few other churches, like the St. Gangolf's Church, I believe it's called. It's also really, really pretty. And then finally, there's the Karl Marx House, which I thought was incredibly interesting and a very well-run museum. So for a city that very few people really talk about, and for a city that's so close to Luxembourg, it really has a lot to offer for a day trip. So highly recommend going to Trier. So to sum it up, here's everything you should check out if you're going to Luxembourg. I love this little country, and even though there's not that much to do that I haven't already done, I would love to go back. It captured my heart, it captured my mind, and I really, really like the vibe of this country. Maybe because it's super rich and everything's run very nicely. That certainly plays part of the role, but in general, it's just got such a peaceful feeling to it, probably because there aren't that many tourists there, and they just live life in a more relaxed way. It feels like you're away from the stress of the big city, and that's something I always appreciate. So if that sounds good to you, check out Luxembourg and check out the things I mentioned. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you're looking into going to Luxembourg, or you were just curious about this little country tucked away in the armpit of Europe, as I call it, Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, maybe you've heard of it. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching. Be safe, and goodbye. And yeah, I just got a haircut. It'll grow back. Don't worry.